It's a big week in gaming, and well, Half-Sword is just the tip of the iceberg. Recently releasing on itch.io for free to test out, it is a physics-based medieval fencing game, and it is, well, mental is probably an understatement. Frank and Ivan are two developers that wanted to create a physics-based medieval first-person game. You know, the likes of Mordhau, Chivalry, Kingdom Come Deliverance. That wasn't enough. Now we have to do something that will enrage you. Do you remember that game, Summatory Dreams, where you were two wrestlers that would go at it with each other? It would not exactly have the best controls, but boy, was it a lot of fun. And this is something that I found time and time over with this title. There are two maps, your basic arena and, well, your winter arena. You start with a random assortment of weaponry or armor, and you're against one opponent. Here you have to hack and slash with the enemy whilst trying not to throw up. The camera is very nauseating, and especially when you actually realize that the sword physics is based on the way your mouse moves, then you really start to realize that you're not going to be able to play this for longer than 10 minutes before you want to put your head in a toilet bowl. Yet what this game does have going for it is, well, it's free and somewhat satisfying. Holding down the left mouse button controls your left hand, the right mouse button controls your right hand. You then can move your mouse to do certain swings. Yes, you actually have to swing with your mouse in order to swing with the sword itself. Not like a click and release like a Chivalry or Mordhau, an actual swing with the mouse. But the results can be somewhat interesting. Once you get past the illness-inducing physics, you will actually get some really fun combat. Is it realistic? No. I mean, the guys that make it kind of have the tagline, totally inaccurate medieval fencing simulator. If you've played Hellish Quart, this is not that. Whilst that game focuses on realism, trying to flourish in beautiful ways to get around your opponent's blocks, this game results in you just trying to slam into them as hard as possible. You'll be chopping off arms, legs, heads, you'll be ripping their guts out with, well, beautiful gore, as you can see on screen, and you'll even be causing yourself some issues. Overall, Half-Sword is pretty entertaining. Is it much of a game at the moment? Not really. There isn't all that much to it, but it can be downloaded for free on itch.io, so I have zero complaints. Now, if you want to support, you can actually donate some money to those guys, but if not, and you want to try it out first, you can just download it straight for free. They do have some plans on some interesting stuff coming in the future, so I will be sticking around and watching it for that. Keep an eye on Half-Sword, because we're in a world of medieval games that try and be too realistic. Sometimes it works, like a Kingdom Come Deliverance, and sometimes it just doesn't. I think a lot of people in this genre really want a game that solidifies themselves within the world, but sometimes you just want to put your sword in someone's stomach and run away as they bleed to death on the sand. Next in the news is Hold Fast. Hold Fast Nations of War was a Napoleonic Wars standalone game based on the Mount and Blade Napoleonic Wars title. Now, it's had a pretty successful career. It came out in 2017. It blew up in popularity. There were many regimental battles with people fighting side by side in lines. However, over the last couple years, it started to go on more of a downward slope. With updates coming in, there were still a few things that the community weren't quite satisfied. There needs to be more factions. The combat itself was a bit weird and it kind of put a lot of people off it, but I think overall Hold Fast is pretty solid. Yet recently the Austrian expansion has released with a new map, Hills of Tyrol. Accompanying Nick and the Austrians will be a new battlefield for the game's Napoleonic front. Inspired by the western Austrian state of Tyrol, this small town sits quietly beside a lake, making it the perfect place for a spot of fishing, or in the case of Hold Fast, some good old-fashioned volleys of powder and shot. Yes, the Austrian faction are coming in with all the troops, all the realistic and authentic weaponry, and the uniforms that you'd expect to come forth. They will be coming in with more voice lines and music to accompany. The trailer premiered on December the 20th, 2022, showing off our beautiful artillery, a man dragging himself through the snow, quite seemingly to be French because he goes up against the Austrians and they tell him what for, and more excitingly, cavalry, something that, you know, has been a miss in the game for a while, and it's really exciting to see the Austrian update pushing it further even more. I will be getting back into Holdfast very, very soon, so make sure you stick around the channel if you're interested in it. And I think the Austrian update has been pretty positive, especially recently. We've also had the Frontlines World War I expansion with Gallipoli, and boy, it seems like Holdfast is actually becoming a very, very lucrative game. It's still pretty cheap. People are still playing it. Regiments are still going to clan battles. And for $14.99, having full Napoleonic Wars and now World War I with trench battles and community events, what more could you really want? Really good job to Anvil Studios, and I'm starting to sound a bit like their dad. Blight is a game that I reviewed on the channel a while ago. I say reviewed, I mean, like everybody else, reacted to the trailer. It is a gory medieval simulator that seems to be going down that third-person route, but potentially has some co-op within it as well. More based on a storyline rather than a large open world, Blight looks and really seems to be gauging people's attention in a big way. When that trailer released, you could tell that people were excited. Not often do we get survival games, especially set in the medieval world, and people were really, really hyped for this one. I mean, GameSpot's video has 200,000 views. Even my video on it has over 100,000 views. Big streamers like Asmongold reacted to it, and the general consensus was, this could be very interesting. IGN released a 3.3 million view banger about Blight, showing off their pre-alpha gameplay. And there's some issues. Not with Blight itself, but something that has been coming to the attention of many YouTubers recently. You see, my video on that, and a lot of the videos, especially on Blight, seem to have been demonetized. And there's only one thing that I can really tell what it's from. Moist Critical released a video talking about YouTube's new changes, something that they didn't announce and just went under the radar. A new swathe of demonetization for channels for now not only saying a bad naughty word within the first 30 seconds, but saying any sort of slightly edgy word that isn't hell or damn in the first 8 seconds will get it completely gone. And video game violence is now on the list. You might think, surely that's not going to be a big issue. But it seems it is. None of these updates that YouTube have done in the past have really affected me. Medieval games seem to have gone a pass, and they've gone a miss. YouTube's demonetization system has kind of been like, yeah, they're fine. But when Blight released and the opening scene is a man getting his head cut in two with a shield, well, YouTube decided that that was not suitable for any advertisers. It's fine, it's one video, and it had been done after I gained pretty much all the views that video was gonna get when YouTube introduced its new content system. But it worries me for the future. If the fact that we cannot upload games now with any sort of gore or violence in them, and let's be honest, it's not horrifically bad, it's, yeah, pretty gory, but these videos are never made for children anyway, and especially these games. If anything, 18 plus, slightly gory or mildly controversial is now unsuitable for YouTube even when it's in a video game. What's that going to mean for the future of stuff like this when it can be promoted but it's not going to be monetized, meaning the incentive for people to play games like Blight or even something as mainstream as Call of Duty with blood and gore in it being demonetized is going to be a big hit to these franchises. I think there's still more research that needs to be done on this case, and whilst the video on Blight is fine, it gained pretty much everything it could gain before it was demonetized, is it going to happen again in the future? I'm hoping that the footage shown in this video should be okay. It's going to be in the latter half. Yet does that mean I can only talk about violent games at the end of videos? Who knows? It's just one of those other things that YouTube decided to implement without telling people that I guess we're all going to have to adapt to. But hey, I still think the game looks cool. I'm still going to make videos on it.